Keep in mind that it's 1 a.m.
Hey guys, I'm Blake.
I'm Bryana.
And today we're going to be talking about Keanu, a 2016 movie that was written by Jordan Peele. I'm sure by now you've probably seen it. If you didn't see it when it originally came out, you've probably since watched it because of all of the Keanu Reeves hype that's been going on over the last little while. And if you haven't seen it, it's a 2016 comedy starring Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele as the two protagonists of the story. The story predominantly follows Jordan Peele on his kind of trek to get his cat back after it's lost, and Keegan-Michael Key is just kind of along for the ride, kind of in a Laurel and Hardy type situation. He has like a subplot within the story as well, but the main story is just about Jordan Peele trying to retrieve his cat who was kidnapped by these gangsters who mistakenly took him from his house. It's very much the style, tone, and comedic expectation that you would have of a Key and Peele movie. Like, it's very much Key and Peele the movie. It's quite good, in my opinion, in how it was executed, and I think it works really well in a genre that a lot of times will churn out a lot of really bad movies. In a genre like this, you usually see a lot of movies that are non-stop jokes without much time for story development or much time to allow you to get to know these characters very well. And I will say that how we get to know all of the characters that we're introduced to is kind of limited to a small group. There isn't a very broad character set to begin with, but we only get to truly know a few of them on any level of getting connected to them as a character. But I'll start off with just saying that I've seen this film before. You haven't seen this film before.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
I remember when it was coming out. So at that time, I knew of Key and Peele, but I had never watched any of their content at all. And I don't know how I managed to not do that, but I just didn't.
It was a bit of a phenomenon when it was going on.
And I somehow missed that completely. I don't know. But I don't know where I was not there.
Well, see, and I'm surprised that I caught it because, so when I was in high school was when Chappelle Show was on. And then Key and Peele came on when I was in late college. And so I wasn't really watching too much television to begin with.
Yeah.
And then the fact that I got to see it, I was kind of very glad because it's this kind of now nearly forgotten gem of comedy, because sketch comedy is really not prevalent anymore, and it's very sad.
So it's weird for me because I didn't even see any of their sketches until my second or third year of college. Even still, I don't know how it is that I didn't happen upon them before. I don't know. But yeah, this was a movie that I remember when it was coming out, a lot of people that I went to school with were talking about it or said that they were going to go see it, whatever. And at that time, I remember not being too interested in it. But as time went on, I remember hearing it in conversation here and there, just whenever. And I remember thinking, maybe I should look into that. And I just never did. I don't know, we were talking about something, or watching a video or something, I don't know. Either way, Keanu somehow popped into the conversation. And
I'm sure I was talking about Jordan Peele or Keegan-Michael Key, one or the other.
Probably, I don't remember. I just remember you asking me if I had watched it.
I was probably thinking about the great John Cena Keegan-Michael Key film, Playing with Fire. No.
When I said no, you were just so surprised that I hadn't seen it.
Oh yeah, well because it has everything that you like in it, cats.
Yeah.
And it's got a particularly cute one.
Yes. Which I wanted to look up. What was that cat's actual name? The cat's name.
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna look it up right now. His name is Nacho.
Okay. All right.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Okay, I am happy.
Well, and in the movie, his name was New Jack, Keanu, and Iglesias.
Yes, but nothing beats Nacho.
He looks like a Nacho.
He does.
Yeah, he's a Nacho-looking cat.
That's Nacho. Anyway, let's pick a starting point. Other than the cat, because obviously I love the cat.
Oh yeah, I just wanted you to get that out of your system right away.
Yes.
So that it could be addressed that was the reason that I brought the movie to your attention.
Yes.
And that's why we watched it in the first place.
Yes.
As far as the comedy goes in this movie, it's pretty Key and Peele standard fare.
Yes.
It's about the level and tone of comedy that you can expect from anything that they put out. It's fairly streetwise while also being very intelligent. It's paced and scripted in such a way that I don't know if you'd say this, but it flows very well.
I think so. It felt like there wasn't any time, there wasn't any significant amount of time that was wasted in telling the story. There are, I don't know, a couple of scenes. There's one in particular that was like right at the beginning, right before Keanu gets kidnapped. They're driving around town and having random conversation. I think it was right after the movie. They went to go to the movies to hang out, and they're talking about
Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele.
Yes, they're talking about, I don't even remember what.
They're talking about how Keegan-Michael Key needs to let loose and
yes.
do his own thing because that's what his wife wants him to do while she's out of town. And Jordan Peele is telling him that going to one movie is not the equivalent of doing his own thing, and that he needs to do other stuff. That's the plot that is Keegan-Michael Key's plot throughout the film, which is essentially finding himself and kind of not being so uptight about everything.
Right.
Kind of growing into his skin and being more comfortable.
But this scene just kind of stood out to me because it's not like a super long scene, but just for like a minute, their conversation to me just felt like it turned into rambling, which I mean they've done this stuff together for so long that they were just bouncing off of each other, which is fine. It's still funny.
That bit that they were doing in the car is a bit that they've done in Key and Peele.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily relate to the actual plot or other plot lines of the film.
No.
But it's still entertaining.
Oh, absolutely.
But other than that, the actual pacing and setup of the film is in a way that you are constantly progressing through the story. It's not stagnant at any time. It's constantly funny. It's constantly interesting. There's always something.
There's not a scene of just people sitting in a room for 10 minutes talking.
Yeah, there's always actively something going on.
Yeah, that progresses things forward, whether it be Keegan-Michael Key's story or Jordan Peele's story. One of them is always being moved forward in one way or another, visually and through the dialogue. I absolutely agree.
Now that I'm thinking about it too, even visually, there's always something moving. So whether or not it's the main characters or something in the background, there's movement everywhere. So it's constantly engaging to look at.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Which I liked. It was never anything boring.
No, yeah, the comedy and the story development was structured in such a way that it really did what it set out to throughout the entire movie. Again, in that genre, it's kind of impressive because a lot of those movies fail, and a lot of those movies have long stretches throughout their films where just nothing funny or interesting is happening whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you just want to move on. And that was never the case in this movie. You know, this is one of those movies where once it was over, I wanted more. I wish there were more to the story and more to the movie. Because, it easily could have been a much longer film, if they so wanted it to be.
I thought it was going to go on for a little bit longer, and then it kind of just came to an end, and I was like, what? I want more.
It hit its climax, really hard.
Yeah.
Well, because they set the time frame in the very beginning with Keegan-Michael Key's wife going away for the weekend.
So you get roughly 2 days.
Yeah. And that's the amount of time that your story is going to have. But aside from that, I thought the soundtrack was really good. Both with score, so just tonal music and stuff like that. Because throughout the story, the all characters essentially in this story are being pursued by these characters that are also played by Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele, the Allentown brothers. And of course, they are always accompanied by very sinister, like tonal, like emotional music that is made to feel just cold, and so you know that their presence is a villainous presence. And that was achieved really well. And then you've got the music that plays over the comedic sequences, which is, you know, usually just general pop culture music. There's a lot of hip hop and rap throughout the film, and then a great deal of Wham and George Michael.
That music alone is its own character.
Yeah, it really is.
And I love that.
It's incorporated into the film very well.
I love that so much.
What happens throughout the story is they come back from hanging out and going to the movies, and they find that the cat is gone. In speaking with the police, they learn that potentially the people who robbed them were actually looking for drugs or money. This leads them to believe that it was their neighbor, played by Will Forte, a character named Hulka, who is Jordan Peele's weed dealer in the film.
They are so next door neighbors that they're in like the same building.
It's the same driveway.
They're literally like right next to each other.
Yeah. There is no separation whatsoever.
No.
And he is a caricature of a weed dealer, and he is very, very silly. Every character in this movie is very silly. Even the ones that are supposed to be very serious are very silly. But Will Forte's character directs them to the people who took the cat, which are a group called the Blips, which are Bloods and Crips that left both of those groups and made their own group. And they are led by Method Man, whose name is Cheddar in the film, because all of the gangster hardcore people in the movie have very silly cutesy names, and that's a rule that's set forth in the movie, because the cuter your name is as a gangster, the more dangerous you are. That is something that Jordan Peele sets forth in the very beginning of the film, when they're initially going to meet Cheddar.
Yeah. And
when they meet Cheddar, they kind of get entangled in this situation where they have to exchange a favor for the cat, and once they exchange this favor, they'll be able to get the cat back and everything will be fine. And of course, because this is a comedic film, that won't be the case once they exchange the favor.
Of course not.
From that instance is where the rest of the movie happens. They get mistaken for these Allentown brother characters and are assumedly amazing assassins. So Method Man wants them to teach his gangsters how to be better gangsters. That's the favor that's exchanged. Now, these are not the most menacing gangsters you've ever seen, because they, again, all have very silly names, as well as just kind of being very random people in their own right. A guy whose name is Trunk because he locked his keys in the trunk of a car with a corpse. It's really weird, funny stuff, and I kind of touch on this in some of our other videos too, but I do want to make mention before it's forgotten that the color palette in this movie is really, really good.
It's nice.
Every scene is really, really well done, especially when you go to Will Forte's house the first time, and he's got shoe collection up on the wall, and it's all these different colors of shoes, and they're kind of out of focus and in the background, but it sets this really nice palette for the entire frame.
Yeah.
It's really great. A lot of time was taken with that. But the color palette was really, really nice throughout the entire film. Even when it was kind of bleak, like singular color palette, within the nightclub where they meet Method Man's character, there's this office where they meet Method Man, and it's kind of like just shades of like black and green, and then there's some accents that are brought about through the light coming in through the window. But it's all really nice to look at, despite it kind of seeming like it ought to be drab. It isn't. It comes across as very pleasant to look at, which is great.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to give it credit for that, because it's something that a lot of movies in that genre also don't really take their time to make sure they do, is to give me something pleasant to look at. They just want the excitement and the action and the clarity to be what draws me in. It's really noteworthy that they took their time to do this, and this goes all the way through to the very, very end of the film, because there's a very beautiful palatial mansion at the end where a final kind of conflict happens, and the color palette there is just absolutely gorgeous, and the lighting and everything is wonderful there. So I definitely didn't want to overlook that.
Well, and I think that there's one frame in particular that stands out to me, is when they finish their initial mission and they come back and they're sitting in the room talking to Cheddar, and they're on the love seat or couch, whatever that is, and they're like off center sitting in the couch, and you kind of see more of like the wall behind them, and it's like brick, and it's just like a lot of like maroons and reds and browns, and then you've got these two sitting on this couch wearing their brightly colored button-up flannel and like teal
Hoodie.
mint colored hoodie, and it's like they do not belong here.
Yeah,
like,
no,
at all.
the contrast of like their presence is immediate.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that goes on, like, the whole time they're interacting with these people, but, like, that shot in particular really stood out to me, because everything around them is, like, dull and dark, and then there's these two. They're just...
Oh, yeah, it's a fish out of water, like, 100%.
And I love that.
That's exactly what that's supposed to be, and they do instigate that through the entire thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
It's so pretty to me.
Oh, yeah, no, I absolutely agree, yeah, and the fact that they help to convey story through that is also really, really awesome.
Yes,
like,
that's...
It's super cool.
Yeah.
So, you've got that going on, and Keanu comes into the story initially as this kind of means of Jordan Peele's character consoling himself after he's had a breakup with this girl. So we know that Jordan Peele is a single character, and he just had a breakup. And then we have our main female character, which is played by Tiffany Haddish. She is a gangster named High C. And as always, Tiffany Haddish is really, really funny in this movie. And she captures her performance very well because she has to be both serious and soft while also being funny. And she does that really effectively. I think Tiffany Haddish is amazing. I'm a big, big fan. No matter what kind of movie she's in, whether it's like something silly or something serious, I enjoy all of it. I think she's an amazing actress. But we do kind of follow that plot line for a while Keanu is kind of in the background, because we don't see a lot of the cat in the middle of the film while we're kind of following these things that are going on. Because of course, once they finish the first task for Method Man, he asks them to complete another, and they have to. This time not because of Jordan Peele insisting that they do for the cat, but because Keegan-Michael Key insists, because he is on a strange, aggressive tirade now that he is being his own person.
I mean, there's a reason for it.
Absolutely, and we'll get to that.
But he is like, it starts
He's justified in how he feels.
Yes.
For sure. When they are told that they're going to do something else, they have to kidnap the cat and run away. And they do, they get away. But when they get away, they get kidnapped by the real Allentown brothers. It's because the Allentown brothers have been hunting them for this cat.
This cat is like the cause
the
for
most
everything.
sought after cat in the world.
And he's not even like, he's not even any kind of like special breed or anything like that. He's just a tabby cat.
Yeah.
There's nothing significantly special about him. He's just cute.
You shut your mouth.
I mean,
that is a beautiful, amazing cat.
I agree. Nacho is
worth burning
amazing.
down half of LA or Burbank or wherever they were when they made this movie.
I'm just saying that, like, technically speaking, he has no value. He's just an adorable cat.
Yeah.
And apparently causes...
He's got personality.
He does. A lot, actually. But
He wears a little do-rag in the movie.
Not by choice.
No. But he wears the gold chain by choice.
It's just... Okay, like, I love cats. I do. But I cannot understand why so many people want this cat. And I guess that's part of the joke too, is that like it's just a cat, and for some reason means everything to everybody and is the cause of a lot of chaos that happens in this area. We are introduced to the cat right at the start of the movie. There's drug lords or whatever doing their thing, and this cat is like wandering around on the desktop of one of these people, and these assassins come in and destroy the place. Meanwhile, this cat, who at that time was called Inglesias, is running around trying to get out of the chaos. The brothers find him think he's cute. And then I guess the police are called. Police show up. So they drop the cat and he runs off and thus finds Jordan Peele and is like a savior at that moment because he did just break up with his girlfriend and it was like really, really, really hard on him.
Yeah, he was just couch locked.
Yeah. Very, very sad and depressed. And then this kitten shows up at his front door, literally, and he takes him in, gives him a bath, gives him some milk, and whole new person. And I love that.
Well, yeah, and it has that effect on the Allentown brothers, too, which is why they take them later when they escape with the cat.
Yeah.
Which, of course, the cat is the Allentown brothers' downfall also.
Yes.
Because they get distracted by the cat and so forth, and their weakness around the cat leads to them being able to get killed by Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key, who gun them down.
Wildly enough.
Oh yeah, the toughest assassins in that area get killed by, these two
like two nobodies.
Average, everyday people.
Over a cat.
Yeah. And pretty much as soon as they come out of the Allentown building, they are captured again by Cheddar.
Of course.
After they get picked up by Cheddar, they're taken over to Louise Guzman's house, which is, his character's name was...
That's Bacon.
Bacon. Bacon. That's right. A lot of these characters don't get their names mentioned in the story, but they all have names. But Louise Guzman's name is Bacon, and he is a drug lord who lives in a giant palatial mansion. Here we've made it to the end.
Yep.
The beginning of the film starts with his cousin getting his drug operation shot up by the Allentown brothers.
Right.
And so Louise Guzman wants the people who did that. And here come Key and Peele. They are the people who did this, or at least the people that it can be pinned on. And so it seems that everything's been worked out between Method Man and Louise Guzman. But when Louise Guzman wants the cat from Method Man refuses. And this leads to an enormous shootout set to the music of George Michael, which is pretty amazing.
It's glorious.
Oh yeah, and the shootouts are in slow motion, and they all involve the cat.
Of course.
And there are several throughout the film. And this shootout turns from a shootout to a car chase, in which the cat ends up on the hood of the car. And Jordan Peele's character throughout the film is repeatedly reminded to the audience that he cannot drive. He does not have a driver's license, doesn't know how to drive, and of course he's driving throughout this entire car chase.
Of course.
Or through, it's not really a car chase so much as it is the bad guy is in the backseat of the car while Jordan Peele is driving the car hysterically, not knowing how to drive, and the cat is kind of just going all over the car as it's going through the motions of these different accidents and things like that.
Now Keegan-Michael Key is in a different car chasing
Yes.
them, I guess to make sure that nothing happens to them. I don't really know what he expects to do.
Well, he's in a Honda Civic hatchback, and he wants to make sure that nothing happens to Rel,
Yeah.
Jordan Peele's character, and he knows that they're going to Keegan-Michael Key's house.
Right.
So,
Yes.
So that's...
Also,
that's
keep
where
in
he's
mind
going.
that at this point, Keegan-Michael Key has been shot in the hand,
Yes.
and Jordan Peele has been shot in the leg.
Yes.
And they're driving these vehicles erratically through the town.
During which time, Keegan-Michael Key's character is just repeatedly talking about how they do not stop at any of the red lights.
Yeah, he's very upset.
Yes. And we've gotten to the conclusion of Jordan Peele getting to where he and his cat are back together, and he has to have this final standoff with Louise Guzman. And we've also gotten to the end of Keegan-Michael Key's story, which is his wife and one of their neighbors or friends has gone off with their daughter and his daughter on like a camping trip, and his wife couldn't go with them, so it was just this gentleman and Keegan-Michael Key's wife with their daughters. And apparently while on this trip, the gentleman makes a move on his wife, and this is what sets Keegan-Michael Key off and
Yes.
kind of gives him this kick of adrenaline midway through the film. When they reach his house at the end, these people pull up and he decks the guy as soon as he gets out of the car. And the response Keegan-Michael Key's wife has to this is that she requires him to fuck her immediately.
Her words exactly.
Yeah. So that's how his story ends, which is a really clever and interesting way to take him from one polar opposite to the other.
Oh yeah.
Because he starts out very Mr. Rogers and ends up very Duke Nukem, and that's a very big jump. But all of these stories kind of come to a close here at the end, at which time we're also introduced to the fact that Tiffany Haddish's character is not a gangster, but she is an undercover police officer. And she is the person who is responsible for arresting Method Man and all these other gangsters for the drug ring, I would say, that they have going on with Luis Guzman and so forth. But it turns out that Method Man is not going to go out without a fight, and he gets shot down by Tiffany Haddish when he tries to attack her. And that's the action of the scene, but all throughout what's going on is Keegan-Michael Key telling his daughter to stay in the car so that his wife and he can have sex, and Jordan Peele running triumphantly to the car to save the cat, because no one knew at this point whether or not the cat had survived this car accident.
I mean, obviously,
yeah,
the cat survived.
Certainly, yeah. This is not one of those movies.
No.
The cat does not suffer a scratch whatsoever, and we do come to find, actually, that the cat has a very rare disease.
Which is, okay, so, it's not, like, detrimental in any way, and I think it's funny that they addressed it at the very end of the movie, because I actually didn't realize how much time had passed between when you were first introduced to the cat to that moment, and it's like 2.5 weeks. And if anybody knows anything about cats, they grow fairly quickly. So they address literally at the absolute very end of the movie that his disease is that he doesn't grow. He doesn't physically age like a normal cat would. So he's just permanently a kitten. Which is fine, but it wasn't until that moment that I actually realized that, wow, there has been a lot of time that has passed. Yeah. He should be a little bigger than he is, but...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they explained that, so it's fine. It's passable.
Oh, yeah, and it's mentioned very passingly. It's not...
It's like casual conversation.
He's got a rare disease. He's going to be a kitten forever.
Yep, like, and they just drop it. It's like, okay, well, cool.
And our movie closes with our heroes in jail, but the cat is safe with Tiffany Haddish.
Yes.
And Keegan-Michael Key's wife is completely turned on by the fact that he is now a tough gangster in prison. Because of his gangster friends that he made while he was pretending to be a gangster, he now has a bunch of gangster friends in jail.
I don't know if that's a positive message or not.
No, it probably isn't. But the thing is the movie is very enjoyable. It's quite funny. And it means well, and it really tries, despite the aspects and like the machinations of the story being something of like potentially like morally ambiguous nature, it still is a very wholesome feeling film when you watch it.
Yeah.
And it's balanced very well between its like graphic nature and its kind of connective, warm feeling that it has, telling a story of friendship and of you know, romanticism between these characters.
It's definitely, I can tell, a movie that not everybody would like just based off of the humor alone. So you would have to be somebody that just doesn't care really to enjoy it fully, I think. I loved it, but more or less because of the cat, to be honest. But it was funny. It was funny, it was entertaining. It's really pretty, unexpectedly pretty, for what it is. I would recommend it.
Oh, for sure.
There's nothing else for the cat.
100%.
And I would also just like to note how well trained this cat is.
Oh, very well.
It is absolutely insane to me, because you can tell it's a young cat. Like, it's small. And it's wild to me how well trained it is. Like...
Very much
it is so patient and lets anybody do whatever they want to it, and it's totally chill. Like, it has the do-rag on, it's got the chains.
It's being held all the time.
All the time. It's like running around through scenes, which I loved. Some of those shots.
A lot of running.
I like
a lot of slow motion running.
Yes. And like every time it showed that, I wondered like how many times did they have to do that before they decided, yes, that is the perfect shot of this cat running through here.
I assume quite a few.
I'm absolutely fascinated with how well that cat responded with all the interaction that it had to deal with.
Oh yeah, it was really, really impressive that a cat that was so young was able to do all that stuff.
And like speak on command.
Oh yeah, that
I
was
love
good.
that.
I mean, especially when it spoke with the voice of Keanu Reeves, because the cat does have the voice of Keanu Reeves in the movie.
Surprise, surprise.
It only speaks in one scene, but when it speaks, it does have the voice of Keanu Reeves.
And it's godly.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing.
You are going to get out of this movie what you want to get out of this movie. I promise you
Yes.
that.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. Like, it's got all the Keanu you need. I guess this time around, I will say definitely that I recommend this movie. I think people should go out and see this movie if they haven't seen this movie. It's very, very funny. Whether you're a fan of just Key and Peele or you like animals or whatever drives you to watch this movie, definitely take the time. It's worth it. It's a great, funny film.
Yes.
I guess my track suggestion for this video is probably going to be, I'll say Same Love by Bill Oldham. Did you have a movie suggestion? Is there any movies that have been jumping out at you lately?
Okay, so I guess this is relevant.
Dinesh D'Souza's Hillary's America.
No. The new Bill and Ted movie is coming out soon.
Oh yeah, it's coming out early, 8 days early.
So I was going to suggest, on the line of Keanu Reeves, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, because that movie is also very funny and it's very good.
100%.
Very, very fun. So I recommend that one.
Oh yes. Alright guys, well we appreciate you watching the video. Please, if you do have the time, leave some comments, some feedback. We would love to hear what you have to say. If you got the ability, I'd like you to hit that bell and maybe hit that subscribe button as well, so that you can know when we post new stuff. We're on a bit of a sporadic.
My stomach is growling like crazy.
Oh yeah. We're on a bit of a sporadic kind of schedule right now. But other than that, we appreciate your time. Thanks for watching the video. Give it a like. Be excellent to each other. Enjoy.